The mid-rounds of fantasy football drafts are the absolute Wild West. We got 15 players that we are throwing the house on to be excellent fantasy picks for you guys in your fantasy football drafts. Danny, we're not going to waste any time. Let's get it kicked off with, we started with a biased Cowboys take in the last video. Let's start with another biased Cowboys take in the mid-rounds here.
Yeah, I mean, George Pickens is a must-draft player in round 5. And don't worry, it's not just me saying that. I think Corey is drafting him a ton on all platforms right now as well. Lost in the shuffle of how the season ended, George Pickens quietly showed evident strides in his game prior to that hamstring injury that ruled him out between weeks 14 and 16, and he had him playing through it in weeks 17 and 18. In that stretch, 13 points per game. But looking deeper, he had a top 10 level target share and was top 20 in the NFL in yards per route run. He's now healthy, insulated in a much better offensive environment in Dallas, and Lamb actually ran 6 more routes per game than what George Pickens was at last year in Pittsburgh. The opportunity is there. We know Dallas wants to air it out, and we know that they want to put up points. From a philosophical perspective, we know what the Steelers want to do. They want to run the ball. They want to control time of possession. They want to trust their defense. And Dallas, that ain't how they're going to try to play winning football. I'll tell you that for free.
Yeah, and 6 more routes per game sounds like not that much, but when you contextualize that George Pickens probably a 25-ish% targets per route run player, it's an extra 2 targets a game.
It's like 18 receiving yards per game more.
Yeah, and also it's not targets per game from Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, Justin Fields, and Russell Wilson, who he's been catching footballs from during the course of his career. And the underrated thing about George Pickens and why I actually really do like him as well. So again, I talked about last video. It's not just Danny that likes CeeDee Lamb. It's not the total Cowboys bias here. I love George Pickens as well. Archetype-wise, he's a wide receiver 2 in his prime, which is a really good archetype to be. He's never had a wide receiver 1 season, but he has been productive before, and he is under the age of 29. He's still, 25 years old or whatever. Yeah. In an offense, like you said, projects very well, high pace, high passing rate, all that good stuff. And George Pickens, sneakily kind of a knucklehead, motivated probably to be having a great season to try and get himself a contract extension this year too.
I mean, it's funny because prior to T. Higgins averaging 18.5 points per game, people were questioning number 2 in his offense. What is the ceiling for T. Higgins? I think George Pickens can very well be this year's T. Higgins.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like you said, Dak Prescott, tied for second right now to lead the league in passing yards right now. And like you said, George Pickens could be this year's T. Higgins as well. Let's talk about my guy here at the top here with Xavier Worthy. Because I'm saying my guy because obviously as a prospect, I was big look, hook 'em horns, Xavier Worthy. But dude, Xavier Worthy goes off the board in like the mid-5th rounds. I have him ranked at the 3-4 turn, man. Like 14.3 PPR points per game from week 10 onward as a rookie last year. Worthy, raw player coming out. He was not ready to play right away at the beginning of the season. We saw that evidenced by a negative fantasy point game against the Buccaneers or whatever. 287 touchdowns. Wow.
That'd be
287 yards, 3 touchdowns in the 3 playoff games. Of course, the very last time we saw him was that monster game that he had in the Super Bowl. Rashee Rice, probably going to catch a 4 to 6 game suspension. Yeah. Jordan Addison just got his suspension. So Rice probably coming in pretty soon here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Jordan Addison just got a 3-game suspension. And I would argue based off Rashee Rice's situation, like you said, probably going to be forward at 6 games, maybe even possibly 8. I just don't really understand with Xavier Worthy why his ADP has not gone up.
No, and I think maybe people are waiting for it to actually get announced that he's suspended. Like maybe, if Rice gets a 6-game suspension, then Xavier Worthy goes up a full round in ADP. But it's like we kind of already knew that was going to happen. So for me, you look at an offense, projects for the 5th most projected points per Vegas, 2nd in projected pass plays per game, only behind the Cincinnati Bengals at 36.1, top 10 in pace, top 6 in neutral pass rate anytime Mahomes has been out there. And think about it, last year being top 6 in neutral pass rate with Rashee Rice hurt for all but 4 games. Marquise Brown missed the entire season. Xavier Worthy was not playing well until about week 10. Travis Kelce is not
washed,
prime Travis Kelce anymore. Yeah, you could maybe argue they passed the ball because Isiah Pacheco was hurt as well. But like, dog, this offense had nobody healthy last year, nobody playing at a high level, and still was pretty good. It could be really good this year with all these guys healthy.
And everything we have heard out of Chiefs camp has pointed to the fact that they want to go back to airing it out. They want to go back to creating big plays. Well, guess what? The 4-2 wide receiver connected to Patrick Mahomes, arguably the best arm talent in the league, is a guy that I want to be targeting. We saw what happened with Jameson Williams and Jared Goff last year. Could you imagine what Jameson Williams would have done with Patrick freaking Mahomes? That's what Xavier Worthy's upside is. And you pointed out to the production, if Mahomes gets back to 40, 45, if he gets 50 touchdowns again, everybody in this offense is going to eat. But the second-year player is the one that we're getting in the 5th round right now, even after knowing his teammate is going to be suspended.
Yeah, well, and think about the way that the Chiefs have been played by opposing defenses. It's gone in waves. Every 2 to 3 years, they change up how they're playing against Kansas City. Early on, it was the deep, air it out, Tyreek Hill type of stuff. Then they kind of went, we're going to take what the defense is giving us. What happens if defenses adjust to that and they start playing up on the Kansas City Chiefs? And now all of a sudden you have not only Xavier Worthy, but Marquise Brown also, who can stretch the field vertically. We might see more of those passes connect. We might see more of those big plays connect, like you made reference to. Jameson Williams was a top 24 receiver in points per game last year on 100 targets. Like, playing with Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions, I think we could definitely see upwards of 130 plus targets for Xavier Worthy this year. And he gets some design work in the rushing game, some screen touches as well. He gets some layup stuff that Jameson Williams wasn't getting.
For sure. And speaking of Jameson Williams, he's actually the honorable mention we have listed here in addition to Jaylen Waddle. And both kind of represent the same thing, exceptional number 2 wide receivers, potentially attached to, good to great offenses. And there is sneaky upside for them to close the gap with the starter in front of them. Amon are kind of dealing with some injuries. And on top of that, you could even make the case from a pure target perspective. Jameson Williams is more beneficial to the Lions in 2024 than Amon St. Brown was. And then with Jaylen Waddle, I mean, we've heard all negativity for Tyreek Hill. Tua's basically commanding him to apologize to the offense is the reports that we're hearing right now. Tua's saying, I want this guy to be accountable. Like, the fact that we're hearing this in the offseason when they had so much time to already hash it out is a red flag. Like, you put a mic next to your starting quarterback and the first thing he does is chew out the number 1 wide receiver. It only bodes well for the 26-year-old who was an elite efficiency receiver literally 2 years ago when he wasn't hurt.
Yeah, it's weird because J-Mo was obviously way better last year. And J-Mo goes way higher on Underdog, right? Underdog, I'm a lot less in on Jameson Williams, but in home leagues, you can get him in the mid-5th round, early 6th round.
Perfectly
You're
fine.
drafting flex plays. You're drafting your wide receiver 3, your wide receiver 4. That's exactly what I would love Jameson Williams to be for me, because 14.2 PPR points per game last year, wide receiver 23. Of course, we know when it hits on weeks for Jameson Williams, it's going nuclear. He has weekly winning upside, which is great for your fantasy lineup against your redraft buddies. And of course, it means a lot in best ball, which is why his ADP is a lot higher on there. Offense is expected to be opened up a lot more downfield. I talked about this with Gibbs in the last video. John Morton and Jameson Williams have both said that this offense projects to be pushing the ball downfield a little bit more. Ben Johnson, if you think about the style of offense they were running, it was get the ball to St. Brown, get the ball to St. Brown, extension of the run game throws. David Montgomery is going to run the ball a lot, which we've already talked about with Gibbs, maybe is a little bit less of a part of the offense. Frank Ragnow also retiring might result in them not being as efficient as a rushing offense. I just think that when you have 100 targets and you go for like 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns or whatever Jameson Williams does, that means you probably earned more volume.
Well, if you recall too, so obviously Morton worked under Ben Johnson last year, but who did he work under prior to Ben Johnson? It was Sean Payton in Denver. Sean Payton versus Ben Johnson, obviously both successful offenses, but different stylistically. We're hearing the tea leaves that they want to change how they approach offense. Last year, it was a lot, stretch you horizontally, hit you with the play action, and you got a 4-2 speed wide receiver running a deep post wide open naked. We could see a lot more in-structure deep shots than we did last year.
Yeah, not to mention, you mentioned Sean Payton. Bo Nix was actually a top 5 quarterback in deep attempts per game last year with no receiving weapons like Jameson Williams in his offense. So if that's the stylistic offense we're getting, Jameson Williams could be a huge beneficiary of that. Like I said, I think there's upside to close the gap between St. Brown getting 180 targets and J-Mo getting 100 targets last year. What if it's 155 and 135 this year? Like, I could see that.
I almost expect it to be that close.
I have Amon St. Brown ranked outside of the first round for that reason.
This is one of the first times I've noticed that you have Amon St. Brown as low as I do.
Yeah, no, it's nothing against St. Brown. It's just that the knee scope scares me a little bit. The offensive change could factor in for him. And Jameson Williams is also the one getting the buzz, getting the hype, we need to get him the ball more, that kind of stuff. So yeah, J-Mo definitely a great pick in the 5th round. And also archetype-wise, wide receiver 2 in his prime, already a top 24 season under his belt. That's a very good checklist to go through, especially when you factor in the top 5 scoring offense projection that the Lions are. Jaylen Waddle, it's funny. Last time he was healthy, 2023, last time Tua played a full season, exactly 14.2 PPR points per game, the same that Jameson Williams produced last year.
Well, and on top of that, I remember doing the CGL for him, but like in the games that like he didn't leave early or Tua didn't leave early, like it was even higher. Like he was a legitimate top 15 point per game player. Like, there was a reason why Jaylen Waddle was being selected in the second round of a lot of your leagues last year. People were taking him in the late second on that 2-3 turn because the expectation was he was going to build off that 2023 and enter new heights in 2024. We're getting such a big discount. We know there's a talented player there when he's healthy, and we have less confirmation that Tyreek Hill is not coming off of a 25 point per game season.
Yeah, he was so much better in 2023 than he was last year. And not to mention, I've talked about this before, but like the value in a Mike McDaniel offense of a play action route, of a screen pass, of a drag route, because of how he schemes it up, is so it's so much more than like the New Orleans Saints offense. And also because of how accurate Tua is when he's out there and stuff. So
time to throw as well. Like that offense just gets the ball out to their playmakers in space. Like, you know exactly when you are facing a Miami Dolphins offense on a week-to-week basis that they're going to try to run a bunch of plays and they're going to try to get their playmakers in space.
Yeah, no Jonnu Smith now, too, is underratedly good for Jaylen Waddle, especially if Tyreek's not going to be playing at the highest level going forward.
How many end rounds that we saw in 2023 that just didn't exist in 2024?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So those guys, again, archetype, what is the archetype of Jaylen Waddle? He has a wide receiver 1 season under his belt before Tyreek Hill, or the first season that Tyreek Hill was there in 2022. He was wide receiver 12 in points per game. Like you said, when healthy in 2023, basically a top 15 receiver, and he's under the age of 29. So that's an excellent, excellent bet that you're making in the mid rounds, which is essentially why I made that video in the first place, is because it's hard to sort through these guys in the mid rounds. You need some kind of like compass to be looking for exactly what you're going for here. Let's talk about round 6, which it's surprising that some of these guys are going in round 6, particularly the 2 rookies who both of us have ranked in the 4th round. I checked our rankings ahead of time. Travis Hunter and Tetairoa McMillan. I'll let you kick it off with Hunter. I'm going to give you a maximum clock of about 45 seconds to talk about Travis, but go ahead with your boy here.
Yeah, I'll save you guys the diatribe. You guys know my thoughts on Travis Hunter. 2nd overall pick, elite talent, guy that we comped to Odell Beckham Jr., Justin Jefferson, like elite tier level talent if he reaches his ceiling in the NFL. The only question mark that people have had for Travis Hunter is how much offense is he going to play and how much defense is going to play. Because I don't think anybody's questioning that the Liam Cohen offense is beneficial for him. He's got elite yak. He's an elite separate. Like, I don't think people are questioning the fit in the offense and the talent that Travis Hunter represents. People just wanted to see an exact number. How many snaps will he play on offense? And we do have a tweet here from Coach Speak Index that was taken yesterday that Liam Cohen has said that he wants to get Travis Hunter on about 80% of offensive snaps. For reference, 80% of offensive snaps is way higher than, the Jayden Reed types that maybe people were hypothesizing last year. Like, 80% of the snaps, isn't that not comparable to what Brian Thomas Jr. was at last year?
Well, not to mention, too, do you think some of those 80% snaps are going to be run plays? They're probably going to be routes, most of them.
Well, out of the 20% that he's not playing, how many of those are going to be run plays? How many of those are going to be, like short yardage type of situations? How many of those plays are actually going to be consequential where Travis Hunter can earn a target? I wouldn't hypothesize too many.
Not to mention, too, think about it. If any of you guys have played football before, and Danny obviously played at a pretty high level here in Canada, your coach calls up first read, second read, third read in your play calls. When Travis is out there, you think he's going to not be the first or the second read on the play?
He is. Like, I mean, it's pretty simple. I love De'Ami Brown. He's had a great training camp. De'Ami Brown cannot sniff the level of talent that both Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter represent. And on top of that, I mean, we talked about, the teammates in the past when I mentioned Pickens and Lamb, when I've mentioned, other examples in these last couple of videos, but Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter, like, why can they not both be wide receiver 1s this year? Genuinely. If Travis Hunter plays 80+% of the snaps, why can't he have a Malik Neighbors-esque, maybe not from a pure target perspective, because I don't expect him to lead the league in target share, but 25+% target share, 140 targets on an offense that throws the ball across the yard because they have the personnel to be able to do so.
Yeah, no, again, you talked about the concentration. Did any of us expect Brian Thomas to have 1,310 as a rookie last year? I certainly didn't. But
I love them and I didn't.
He could carve out 1,510 this year, and Hunter could easily have 1,310 himself. Like, and Lawrence, maybe I need to move him up my rankings based on this conversation, because I actually have him like QB 16 or 17. And the more that I think about it, I probably should have him over some of the guys.
He's 13 for me, I believe, right now.
Yeah, I should probably be closer to where you have him, because I am getting pretty high on this passing attack. And again, the Liam Cohen stuff, think about Jaylen McMillan. I promise you guys last year, the 9 touchdowns or whatever that he scored, the 8 touchdowns that he scored on the season, I swear to God, 6 or 7 of them are wide open.
Well, I remember specifically, I would send you clips. I'm like, oh my God, like, how much money is Liam Cohen going to get this offseason? There's clips circulating on Twitter. I mentioned earlier, like, trips bunch and Jaylen McMillan's running a little real wide open for a 40-yard touchdown. It's like, how many schemers can create that much of separation for their athletes in space? And now you're applying that type of space to Travis freaking Hunter.
Yeah, no, it's insane, man. If anybody's
Heisman winner.
yeah, if you're questioning the talent of Travis Hunter, I don't know what to tell you, but it is very.
You might be on tar if you're questioning his talent.
Yeah, it's all just, does he play offense? Does he play defense? 80% of the offensive snaps. Shout out to Rich Eisen, the GOAT, for getting an actual number out of Liam Cohen's mouth. Like I said, 80% of the offensive snaps. How many routes per game are we getting from Travis? Because if it's 30, 35 routes a game, he is going to smash and obliterate a 6th round ADP. It is not even going to be funny.
Also, shout out Coach Speak Index for not putting that behind a paywall, because I'm sure a lot of people would have paid for that info.
Oh, I would have.
I would have too.
And sticking with the rookie theme here, we got Tetairoa McMillan, who was the 8th overall pick in the draft. So 2 top 10 picks, 5th highest graded prospect in the FSC prospect model. Only Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors graded higher than Tetairoa McMillan. So I think that ultimately at wide receiver, talent is everything. You're the 5th highest graded wide receiver since 2016. You're probably a really good player. Drake London's worse than you. Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, JSN, all these guys below Tetairoa McMillan in our prospect model.
Well, let me ask you this too. Like, even just aside from the rookies, because obviously we're hyping up the young, talented rookies because they're depressed at cost in a lot of home leagues. But if I had to give you like an allocation of like odds on who would be the wide receiver 12 in fantasy this year, and your options, T. Higgins, Devontae Adams, etc., how would you allocate that? Because for me, the difference in allocation between the round 3 wide receivers versus this range of wide receivers, like, yeah, sure, I think it's more likely those guys are top 12 level options, but I don't think it's outrageous enough to be a 2 to 3 round discrepancy.
Well, it's funny you bring that up, because in yesterday's video, or 2 days ago's video, the early round wide receiver strategy that will change, your way of thinking. I looked at the wide receiver 13 in ADP to the wide receiver 36 in ADP. Since 2020, what were the hit rates in terms of because if you just look at the whole top 36 as a whole, a lot of wide receivers in their prime who have had wide receiver 1s seasons before are going in the top 12. So if you remove the Chases, the Jeffersons, the Lambs, the guys who are obviously going to hit at a high rate,
the heroes,
the guys who are 3rd to 7th round picks, basically wide receivers 13 to 36, the breakout candidates actually crushed at the highest rate. So guys that are really good breakout bets like Travis Hunter, like Tetairoa McMillan, top 10 draft capital. You look at the individual micro player take of Tetairoa McMillan. You have Bryce Young, who played like a franchise quarterback post-benching, wide open wide receiver core, Xavier Legette, Coker, Thielen. They're all better as number 2s, number 3s, number 4s in the NFL. And then you look at the camp hype, you look at the praise that he's been getting, consistent drumbeat that Tet McMillan is producing in camp. And Dave Canales' offense was very creative last year, was creating space for lesser players than Tetairoa McMillan.
Well, philosophically, the way I draft receivers right now, and I'm glad you mentioned the new age of approach that we should be having with the wide receiver position, but we broke down that in that Ryan Heath article, 42% of league winners at wide receiver come in the first 2 rounds. So to me, when I'm drafting wide receivers in the mid rounds, can they be a top 2 round selection the following year? And Tet McMillan and Travis Hunter and the other couple names that we mentioned absolutely have the case to be in that list.
Yeah, there's time and places for Devontae Smith, who's a really good projection.
Eat your veggies sometimes, but you also have to have, the potatoes on the side to even it out.
Yeah, dude, eat both. This is my joy process. You start your draft with Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr. with your first 2 picks.
Yeah.
At the 1-2 turn, that's who you take. Let's say you take 2 running backs.
Kittle and Hampton.
You take Hampton and
Hampton
with the next 2 picks. So you have your 2 wide receivers, your 2 running backs. 5-6 turn comes around. You grab Cortland Sutton, George Pickens, Zay Flowers, eat your veggies type of pick, who's probably not quite the level of upside as a Tetairoa McMillan, as a Travis Hunter. In a 2 wide receiver, 2 flex league, you got your 4 wide receivers and full PPR ready to go.
And maybe somebody might be saying, well, if I have Brian Thomas Jr., I might not draft Travis Hunter. First and foremost, that's not something that we really care about, to be honest. If it's an offense we believe in, we would do that. But second of all, it's even if you took Nico Collins plus Malik Neighbors on that turn, you grab 2 running backs, I'd even be comfortable grabbing both Tet and Travis Hunter at that point, because I know my top 2 wide receiver spots are giving me 18, 19 plus points per game. So I'd rather swing on those last 2 spots to potentially even give me more too.
Yeah, and in round 8, you draft Khalil Shakir just in case one of those rookies gets out.
Assuming he's healthy.
Or, you know what I mean? Like a safer guy, Jacoby Myers, somebody like that could get you by if you absolutely needed it. So with these 2 guys, in round 6, man, you already have a bunch of players on your team. Let's try and get a guy who crushes his ADP. Tetairoa McMillan and Travis Hunter both could crush their ADP.
Well, I mean, the drumbeat that we're hearing from Tet McMillan, I mean, we're already seeing clips of him in joint practice against the Browns, just catching contesting touchdowns on people. We both believe in Bryce Young. Whether it's Travis Hunter, whether it's Tetairoa McMillan, some people in the comments might be pro Hunter, might be pro McMillan and anti the other. My advice is just be pro both.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to mention, In sharp formats like Underdog, McMillan goes a full round and a half higher than this, than he does on multi-site ADP. Hunter, especially after this 80% snaps comment, will be going at least a round earlier than this. So the home league ADP discount of these rookies, because, you know, boomers don't like drafting rookies early or whatever, it's gonna hit different when you can grab these guys in the 6th round.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of the rookie revelation that we're kind of in right now, I mean, TreVeyon Henderson, how many, you know, flat routes he's catching for touchdowns. Like, every report we're hearing is how they want to use him in the James White role. Josh McDaniels already given him flowers. Like, dude, what if he is a top 3 target in the receiving game with the juice to be a legitimate, efficient rusher in an offense we believe in, because we believe in Drake May?
Yeah, Jordan Schultz came out and said that they're extremely high on his ability on 3rd down. And to me, that signals, you look at DeAndre Swift, Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker, those are his comps. DeAndre Swift and Alvin Kamara as rookies were like 5-6 target per game guys. And TreVeyon Henderson has the same level of skill set. We know he has the ability to pass protect and stay on the field in those situations. And like you said, we believe in Drake May. This is a team that projects for 8.5 wins, according to Vegas. Josh McDaniels, good offensive coordinator. Mike Vrabel, good coach. This is going to be a much improved team. Upgrade at left tackle with Will Campbell. Upgrade at right tackle with Morgan Moses. They already had like a half decent interior before that. Sneakily, TreVeyon Henderson could very easily crush. He's like going off the board RB20, RB22, somewhere in that territory. 6th round, like we said. He could crush and be a top 15 running back, no questions asked.
And I've broken it down before, but top 40 level picks of this prospect caliber rarely ever finish outside of the top 20. So the fact that you're basically drafting this guy at his floor and knowing that the upside is the Alvin Kamara's, is the Kenneth Walker's, is the DeAndre Swift's, the top 12, top 15 level point per game projections on an offense that I graded in the coaching exchanges video, I graded Josh McDaniels as an A-tier hire. You look at the track record of Josh McDaniels, even in the year that Mac Jones was starting, he led a successful offense. I have no concerns here. And on top of that, I mean, if Drake May does take that Josh Allen leap and this offense goes from maybe a bottom 8 level projection to a legitimate, you know, top 15, top 12 level offense, the sky is the limit when it comes to TreVeyon Henderson. You're looking at potentially 150 plus carries and 80 plus targets.
Yeah, especially those of you guys in full PPR leagues, let's say through 5 rounds. Through 5 rounds, you have 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers on your roster. Maybe 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and an elite onesie quarterback or tight end. You grab TreVeyon Henderson as your first flex or whatever, and by week 6, he's a top 10 running back consistently in my running back rankings throughout the year. Wouldn't shock me one bit. Let me go back, just if you guys had Ramondre Stevenson in fantasy last year, go back to week 10 and let me know if you would still view Ramondre Stevenson as a significant threat to the incoming top 40 pick rookie who has been a dynasty and Debbie darling since the second he stepped on a college football field.
Bro, we've been hearing reports of freaking Ramondre Stevenson fumbling for the last 3 years. Like this training camp, he's fumbling basically every touch, it feels like. They just draft the top 40 running back. Like, if you are in a league that views Ramondre Stevenson as a starter, because I have seen that tweet on my timeline multiple times this offseason, buy the freaking dip. If you're getting TreVeyon Henderson in the 60s of the draft, take him and laugh at the rest of your league.
Not to mention, if Antonio Gibson was not terrible, he would have won people leagues last year because the Patriots tried so hard to give him a full workload.
They wanted him to be a thing.
And he was just so bad that, like, if they had Tyler Algier in that backfield with Ramondre Stevenson, he would have won people leagues. If they had any semblance of a decent running back, Zach Charbonnet's in that backfield, he would have won people leagues. So get TreVeyon Henderson at a value and also get Rome Odunze at a value. We've talked about him a lot. We can, again, in the 6th round of home leagues, 7th highest graded prospects coming out in the model. So I talked about McMillan was the 5th highest graded, Odunze the 7th highest graded.
Similar archetypes too.
Yeah, very similar archetypes. OC upgrade, he goes from Shane Waldron and Thomas Brown to Ben Johnson. Reportedly, looks like the best wide receiver in camp, as we've heard from numerous beat reporters in Chicago, the coaching staff, the OCs, everybody. 71st percentile and 87th percentile win rates against man and press coverage. 52nd percentile against zone. That's going to come up. For an X receiver, that's got to come up a little bit. We look at a down rookie year from Rome Odunze. You're getting a discount because of that down rookie year. A lot bodes well for him entering year 2. Quarterback should play better not being a rookie. Offense is a lot better with the better offensive coordinator. Odunze himself needs to play a little bit better, but I'm taking that bet in the 6th round.
I mean, we've heard from Ben Johnson's mouth himself, him calling Rome Odunze the prototype X wide receiver. We've heard reports from, I believe it was Ben Devine, a Chicago reporter, that has pointed to it would be an extreme shock if he did not lead the Bears in 2025 in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. you got to follow the tea leaves here. Again, that's one of our favorite phrases, I feel like, on this channel at this point. But you get a year 2 breakout candidate going in round 6 with all positive drumbeat, with that type of reception perception metrics. Just draft them and worry about it later.
Yeah, and if you, in that video where I talked about breakout candidates in the mid rounds, that clump, breakout candidates that smash, like if you go back and look at the guys that do it, I'll actually put it on the screen, the guys who came from the mid rounds who smashed, were they not just really talented receivers who were being overthought? It was Malik Neighbors last year, for example. Really talented
Draft good players.
Just draft really good receivers. So if you believe Odunze, like we believe Odunze is a really good receiver, then he'll probably overcome whatever concerns you have for him, whether it's DJ Moore, whether it's the new offense, whether it's Caleb Williams, whatever your concerns are, he'll probably overcome them if he's just a really good freaking receiver. JSN, another good example last year.
Yeah.
If he was just a really good receiver, which he was last year, he overcame the DK Metcalf concerns, the Tyler Lockett concerns.
Common denominator too. He moved off of Shane Waldron as his OC.
Yeah, Shane Waldron makes everybody's life worse.
All the homies hate Shane Waldron.
Ben Johnson makes everybody's life better. Let's talk about round 7, which generally a lot worse of a round in totality of ADP, because you start to see quarterbacks get pushed up the board in home leagues a little bit. You start to see tight ends get pushed up the board in home leagues a little bit. And you also see some of the running backs that we don't love, like the Tony Pollards, the Aaron Jones, the David Montgomery, start to go in this territory. But there are some guys in round 7 that I do like. Easy one for me is Stefon Diggs. We just talked about the Patriots offense and why we like Drake May to take a step forward this year. He's on track for OTAs. Check. That was the first checkbox he needed to hit. Ready for training camp? Check. Hit that checkbox. Tracking to play week 1? Check. He hit that checkbox. So Stefon Diggs, by all indications, is fully healthy and ready to play football games. Wide receiver 10 last year. In points per game, in the 6 healthy games that he played with CJ Stroud and the Texans offense, he was making you and I look really stupid.
Oh, yeah.
We were not in on Stefon Diggs last year. 17 PPR.
We got bailed out.
Exactly. 17 PPR points per game. And if you recall, how are the Texans using him versus how they used to use him in Buffalo?
So as we know, in Buffalo, he was their X-wide receiver. He was their do-it-all versatile wide receiver across the formation. Last year, we saw in the presence of arguably the best X wide receiver in the league, I would say, Nico Collins. You look at the yards per row run against man and zone coverage, like he is absolutely insane. And yet Stefon Diggs transitioned to that slot role and was that productive. From a target per game perspective, from a production per game perspective, like you said, wide receiver 10. I guess like the only concern at this point, because by all accounts, like you said, he is fully healthy from that ACL tear, is like, oh, now he's dating Cardi B and he's, doing pink stuff on the boat. I'm not going to clarify what. Like there's a lot there, the knucklehead status. But if you're getting a knucklehead status player in round 7 versus round 3, I will take the dip.
Yeah, and maybe in home leagues he goes higher because he's a big name. Maybe. He's been very productive for fantasy, but the age, the injury discount, he's a flex in round 7. You're not even drafting him as a starter. And
wide receiver 1 for Drake May, who we think has top 5 quarterback upside.
Well, think about the offensive coordinator. Like Josh McDaniels going to use an underneath target a lot, probably.
Oh, man. Yeah, no, I mean, between him, DeMario Douglas, Kyle Williams, like I really truly think that Drake May is poised to have an MVP caliber season, in all honesty. Like maybe that sounds like a hot take. I think the upside is for him to be that level of talent, but he's not going to get there unless Stefon Diggs is that guy. And I do think Stefon Diggs is poised for a big bounce back after that ACL.
Well, Vegas thinks they're going to win 9 games. Yeah. So, I mean, if Stefon Diggs and the Patriots win 9 games, I think Diggs can very easily walk his way into 140 plus targets this year, assuming he's healthy, which by all if there was vibes saying he's not practicing, like if his news was Ayuk's news, would I be talking about him right now? No. But he didn't have a knee brace on during OTAs. Like didn't even have a knee brace on during OTAs. It was a clean ACL tear. He's fully ready to go.
The juice was there too. Like he was moving well.
Yeah, dude, he was good last year. Like he was making us look really, really stupid. So I don't want to be out on him this year in round 7, in round 8, where he's going to go. Because especially in sharper leagues, people don't like aging receivers. People don't like ACL tear type of wide receivers. But round 7, round 8, you're drafting him as a flex or maybe even a bench receiver at that point, depending on how shallow your league is.
Speaking of round 7, the other guy that I cannot stop drafting in this range, I mean, can we explain why Isiah Pacheco is going in round 7 right now?
No, I cannot. I've tried.
A former PPR point per game RB1 is now fully healthy and attached to the Kansas City offense. And I get it. People might be pessimistic. Oh, well, he struggled after injury last year. Go and snap your leg in half and try to be efficient after that injury. He had a broken fibula and came back and wasn't as efficient, even though we literally saw pre-injury Isiah Pacheco be one of the best efficient running backs in the league. And people are like, oh, he's undraftable now. Like, guys, it's so simple. He is fully healthy. He has breakaway speed when he is fully healthy, and he had 264 opportunities in 2023. He is the easiest bounce back candidate of the year and is super cheap because people can't contextualize that he didn't look good after a broken leg.
Yeah, no, when
Tony Pollard had the same injury and he sucked in Dallas.
Yeah, no, he was terrible. And then actually last year with Tennessee, he started to look a lot better. So Isiah Pacheco, again, when you're just checking boxes, former RB1 in points per game, on a great offense, behind a good offensive line, has a great quarterback, been efficient in the past, breakaway speed, like you mentioned. Before those first 2 games of the season, before 2023, or in the 2023 season, when he finishes an RB1 in points per game, which is way higher than he's being drafted right now, Jaylen McKinnon was taking all of the third down work. CEH or whoever else was there was taking all the third down reps, all the routes, all the targets, all the long down and distance, all the 2-minute drill. We saw in those first 2 games, Pacheco was actually getting that work. And that was the reason that you and I were both in on him last year, saying that this dude could legit have a top 5 ceiling.
Playoff run as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He's getting the touches. He's getting everything he needs. Imagine getting a workhorse running back for the Kansas City friggin' Chiefs in the 7th round. It makes me not want to draft like a 4th round running back or a 5th round running back, knowing that I can hammer out an elite quarterback or a wide receiver or George Kittle or something, and then grab Isiah Pacheco 2 rounds later.
It's so simple, but the draft the best player strategy is just the best strategy this year. See what falls here, because if you have Isiah Pacheco staring you in the face of round 7, and you know that's going to be the case in your league, maybe you don't draft 3 or 4 running backs prior to round 7 because he's just such a smash there.
Yeah, maybe you're like, okay, it's round 3. Should I take Breece Hall or should I take
George Kittle
Jackson or something? It's like maybe I should take Lamar Jackson because I know that Isiah Pacheco and the next guy, Brian Robinson, are going to be there in the 7th round. Now, Brian Robinson doesn't have the same ceiling as Isiah Pacheco because of the receiving work and that kind of thing. But Brian Robinson, if you Frankenstein his seasons the last 2 years, you can really point to the fact that 4 stretches of time, first 4 weeks of last year, first about 11 weeks or so of 2023, we're talking about a legitimate like back-end RB1 in production. And think about, too, in the first 4 games last year, was Jayden Daniels? No. Or was he Jayden Daniels after that? In 2023, when Sam Howell started those games, was he Jayden Daniels that we know of now?
You had a guy putting you consistently in 3rd and logs for a running back that doesn't make his money in the pass game with Sam Howell that year. And yet, even despite that, he was the RB12 in points per game.
Yeah, those first 11 games, man, like, I think Brian Robinson is super slept on because, yes, he's an early down back. Yes, he's probably limited to touchdown or bust on any given week. But when you play for the Commanders and your offense is projected for top 6 in projected scoring, you're in a contract year. You have improved offensive tackles in both spots. Right tackle Josh Connolly in the first round. Left tackle Laramie Tunsil, one of the best in the league, via trade with the Texans. Could he post a top 15 season and all of us go, do you remember the season that Miles Sanders had his final year in Philadelphia?
Yeah, 1,200 yards.
I totally see Brian Robinson having a season like that, where Sanders the year before scored 0 touchdowns in 2021, and then in that 2022 season comes out, has the touchdowns, has the big plays. Brian Robinson's a very solid running back. He's not the best running back in the league, but you're getting him in the 7th round. He does not need to score 20 points per game to pay off at this price.
On top of that, we are playing in a league where you can trade. We're not like strictly an underdog. If you're drafting an underdog, maybe people were like, oh, maybe Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt like earns more work as the year goes along. Austin Eckler's still going to be a factor. It's like, well, guess what? Week 1 this year, who is going to have the touchdown equity in the Washington offense when they're running the football? It is going to be Brian Robinson. And Brian Robinson, if he gets out to a top 12 point per game start in the first few weeks like he did last year, you know what you can do? What are we best at?
Trading. Yeah, trading. You know what I'm actually going to do? When I'm editing this, week 4 trade targets, I'm literally, because I know we talked about Brian Robinson in that video, I'm going to put up legitimate trades that happened in leagues last year after week 4 of the season, where you could take Brian Robinson plus Jacoby Myers or some other wide receiver that got out to a nice start, and you probably could have traded for like the biggest league winners in fantasy at the time, because Brian Robinson started out the season hot. And even me, like for example, in our flock league, I was like, I took freaking Javonte Williams over this guy, and I wanted to take him. And I really thought last year when we saw how well Jayden started playing in that Bengals game, I was like, Brian Robinson is going to make me look stupid. And we got bailed out by the fact that he suffered lower body injury after lower body injury. Now, again, he's got to stay healthy. That's a big problem for him right now. But Brian Robinson, assuming he's healthy, can be legit touchdown or bust mid RB2. Why would I draft David Montgomery, who has Jahmyr Gibbs ahead of him on the depth chart, when Brian Robinson's the exact same projection with no Jahmyr Gibbs?
It makes zero sense. And on top of that, you don't have to worry. Yeah, sure. Brian Robinson Jr., still, the Washington Commanders offensive line, not as good as the Detroit Lions. Well, they added a all-pro, top 3 level left tackle, and the Lions lost the best center in the league.
Yeah, and it's actually not that far off. I know PFF had them both as top 10 offensive lines. I think the Commanders were like 8 or 9, but the Lions were like 3 or 4. Like, it's not like that big of a discrepancy. And again, it's a contract year. There's room for Brian Robinson to really play at a high level because I'm sure he's motivated. He was a 3rd round pick. He probably doesn't make that much money. He's probably going to be very motivated to have a big year this year. So,
and like Ricky Pearsall, he once took lead.
Yeah, he once took lead to the chest as well. So I actually don't remember. I think it was
it's to the leg.
Yeah, his leg. But either way, I mean, and you got to bet on guys like that. Round 8, and I put round 9 in here because round 8 was so gross that I was like, let's just take some guys from round 9 because some of the biggest values on the board are in round 9. I'll talk about 2 Green Bay wide receivers because they both go in the same range. Jayden Reed, Matthew Golden. Pick your poison. What one do you like? Maybe you draft both. Who knows? I want pieces of this offense because both guys are getting camp hype, whether it's Jayden Reed getting all the work, in short yardage and getting all the PPR targets, or Matthew Golden burning people off the line. I saw Jacob Gibbs tweet out something of him absolutely ripping one of the DBs off the line, comping him to Ladd McConkey. Like, these guys are getting hyped.
Why can't the Green Bay Packers this year be the new San Francisco 49ers? Tucker Kraft, maybe your George Kittle type, obviously not as good as George Kittle, but yards after catch, tight end, efficient player. Brandon Ayuk, kind of the Matthew Golden 3-level threat. And then Jayden Reed is your Deebo Samuel, where you're designing touches, you're getting them in space, and he can contribute in yak. On top of that, as much as I like Brock Purdy, I think Jordan Love's got a top 5 level talent upside if he is able to take that step, which we didn't see in 2024. But he also, by all accounts, it looked like after week 1, tore his ACL. Like, it looked like that. It was a bad MCL sprain. He's projected to miss a lot of time. And when they came back, he averaged 28 pass attempts per game. We saw 34 attempts per game in 2023, and they just went out and added a 1st-round receiver.
Yeah, whether it's Jayden Reed, who you feel like you're getting good. Jayden Reed quietly rushed for 300 rushing yards his last 2 football seasons, too. So he gives you something on the ground, like you mentioned, the Deebo Samuel kind of situation there. Top 24 producer with Jordan Love since basically the end of his rookie season into that first game. He was excellent, like a 17-point per game producer. Matthew Golden's breaking ankles in camp. He's going to get those big plays. Jordan Love likes to chuck the football.
Jordan Love's already talked well on it.
He absolutely loves chucking the football deep. This offense was a top 12 unit in pass rate over expected when Jordan Love was healthy the last 2 seasons combined. So again, I feel good about just investing into this offense. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know if it's going to be a huge Golden's the clear answer, Reed's the clear answer. I just want to take shots on both of them.
Well, Love was quoted, I believe, yesterday on the day we're recording this. Love was quoted to say that he expects Matthew Golden to be a stud.
Yeah.
Right away. Oh, that's already come out.
Yeah, like I said, they're both getting camp hype. Golden a little bit more so recently than Jayden Reed, but even if Reed is just the slot receiver PPR guy, like, it wouldn't shock me if he still has 120 targets and 15 to 30 rush attempts this year too.
For sure. Yeah. Jayden Reed, Matthew Golden, very, very good bets at their cost right now. Another very good bet at his cost. I mean, how many times does a fantasy analyst, including ourselves, have to talk about the name Josh Downs? You guys have probably heard Josh Downs propaganda for the last 3-4 weeks, maybe even 5 weeks at this point, but I'll just say it again. The fact that he is an 8th round pick makes absolutely no sense.
9th round pick, by the way.
9th round pick makes absolutely no sense. His underdog price, it's gone up. People are sharp. People understanding that, hey, he is the number 1 target on this team. Home leagues are still apprehensive. They add Tyler Warren. They have Michael Pittman. People are looking all the mouths to feed and not realizing that this guy was one of the premier separators in the NFL last year. And on top of that, he has 2 separate paths to a quarterback upgrade this year, Corey. Either Anthony Richardson keeps his job because he's improved as a passer, or he's benched, and Daniel Jones, who just fed 143 targets to Wan'Dale Robinson, slot wide receiver on the Giants, takes over the quarterback position and provides stability. Really what it boils down to is you're betting on a year 3 player potentially being the offensive fulcrum for this team as a slot receiver. And on top of that, Matt Harmon himself has said about Josh Downs, he has the upside to funnel an offense like Amon St. Brown has done in Detroit.
Yeah, having 90th percentile win rate against man coverage at 5'9", 171 pounds, and 92nd against zone, like, if you get open, the quarterbacks are gonna find you. Whether it's Anthony Richardson, who can't really throw the football worth a shit, and he gets better, like you said, or it's Daniel Jones, break glass in case of emergency. He's going to start for this team, and maybe he's this year's Sam Darnold. That's personally what I think will happen, which is why I'm drafting a lot of Daniel Jones on Underdog and stacking him up with Josh Downs, Pittman, and Tyler Warren late. I want pieces of this offense. I think this offense can be a lot better than people think. I think it's going to be a top 15 scoring unit because Shane Steichen's a smart coach. They run a high pace of play, and there's a path for a quarterback to be decent in this offense.
And what did we say is the best way to go once you exit the round 3, round 4 portion in terms of targeting wide receivers?
Guys who have been productive before and also young kind of breakout candidate type of dudes like Josh Downs. Draft the good players. Yeah, draft good players. Josh Downs last year had a high ankle sprain and missed like all of training camp. Legitimately missed all of training camp. And week 3, week 4 comes out with Anthony Richardson, who literally could not throw the football and had like 14 points per game after missing all of training camp as a 22-year-old second-year wide receiver.
Yeah, and you know who he outscored last year, right?
Zay Flowers, probably.
I had to make the joke.
Yeah, Zay Flowers almost made this video, but Danny's ranking of him actually really weighed him down. But if it was just me making these takes, I probably would have had Zay Flowers in the 5th, 6th round range. And then Ricky Pearsall. I've gotten higher on him. Same. I did not expect Jameson Williams and Ricky Pearsall to be in this video based on my past opinions of those players. Jennings is a long shot to play in week 1 based on all reports. Everything I've heard, calf injuries. The 49ers are well-versed on what calf injuries can look like if you rush somebody back. Brandon Ayuk, also a long shot to play in week 1. Multi-ligament ACL tear, about 9 months removed from that. And then first-round pick last year, Ricky Pearsall. Spike weeks were great when he was on the field. Beat zone coverage at an 83rd percentile rate despite taking lead to the chest, as we talked about already.
Many men.
Brock Purdy is too good not to bring other people along. I don't think people realize how well Brock Purdy played last year.
Okay.
He was his
best year.
He's a merchant of his weapons from 20.
Last year he wasn't.
He was not, man. He was elevating the play of people, and I have been very anti-Juwan Jennings this year. I think he's the single worst pick in the entire fantasy draft period. Like round by round, he's like the actual worst pick on the board. I got to be pro Ricky Pearsall in that situation. I can only draft George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey and maybe take shots if I have an IR spot in my league on Brandon Ayuk so many times before I realize that Ricky Pearsall might just be the right answer.
Yeah, and also, I already know you made it this far in the video, but shout out Dylan. We had to give your boy Brock Purdy some flowers. Yeah, I think 2024 was his best season considering the context of their situation. And we mentioned in the George Kittle bit, this is the least amount of target competition the 49ers have had in how many years? 2016, 2017, realistically?
Yeah, well, and Brock Purdy, just the player, the way he's gotten better, it's similar to the Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott career trajectory, where early in your career, you have the Avengers around you. You have the guys that are making you look great. But then as you get closer to your payday, which Purdy obviously signed this offseason, you got to elevate the play of some people because you no longer have the affordability cap-wise to have all those Avengers around you. And we saw Dak do it. We saw Russell Wilson do it. We even see, Tom Brady all the way back in the day do it. Like Brock Purdy did it. He took this, like he could have very easily looked like crap last year with all the excuses that we could have made. Ayuk is hurt. Jennings is this guy. And he looked great. He looked really good last year.
It's funny how after 2023, when you had certain people saying, is he a top 5 quarterback? Is he a top 8 quarterback? He was the most overrated quarterback in the league in 2023. And the fact that in 2024, just because the overall production numbers weren't as great, people are like, oh, well, maybe he's like quarterback 17 in the league. It's like, well, no, now he's the most underrated quarterback in the league if that's the sentiment on him.
Yeah, he went from overrated to underrated really quickly. And if the 49ers in 2023 had Brock Purdy playing like he was in 2024, he might have won the MVP. And the 49ers definitely would have won that Super Bowl, I would imagine, as well. So mid-round players that we're staking our lives on here. We gave you 15 guys that you can actively target in your fantasy football leagues. You guys might notice we didn't draft and talk about one quarterback or tight end in this video. And the reason for that is because we are pretty much hammering out wide receivers and running backs in this territory. Because if we're going to take a tight end or a quarterback, it was in the video that you saw yesterday, which is those early round anchors, the McBrides, the Bowers, the Kittle, or the Lamar, Allen, Daniels, and Hurts. We're kind of bypassing the Burrows, the Mahomes, the Bakers, the whoever is going in this territory, and then the Laportas, the Hawkinsons at tight end, because we don't feel that all that different about the quarterbacks and tight ends that we would get in round 9, round 10, round 11 versus those guys going in the 4th to 8th round.
Well, it's like we mentioned, like, sure, do I like Joe Burrow's passing projection more than Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes and stuff? Sure. But when there's rounds of discrepancy between them and I can still get the second or third best projection in terms of passing yards. And I know Joe Burrow's probably going to give me 200 to 300 rushing yards max. Like, I would just rather take a cheaper pocket passer in this range. I would either want to spend up on the elite Konami quarterbacks, or I'd rather punt it off and get quarterback 8, quarterback 9, quarterback 10 off the board.
Yeah, and if you look at underdog ADP, the difference between George Kittle tight end 3 and Sam Laporta tight end 4 is like 35 picks. And that's what the sharps are.
Probably should be more.
It probably should be more. The difference between Jalen Hurts quarterback 4 and Joe Burrow quarterback 5 is like 20 picks. And it would be more if it wasn't for stacking him with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So the sharps have noticed that these Konami code quarterbacks are the answer. And if you're not getting one, you probably shouldn't draft one until round 8, round 9. And you can get mobile quarterbacks in that territory, like Kyler Murray, like Caleb Williams, like Drake May, like some of those guys, even Jordan Love, Dak Prescott,
Bo Nix,
Brock Purdy, and those guys. Like, there's dudes that you can get later. So in this territory, rounds 4 through rounds 8-ish that we talked about in today's video, rounds 5 through round 8-ish that we talked about in today's video, we're hammering wide receivers and running backs because we do think it's the optimal play this year. Definitely check out everything we got going on. Our season pass is live right now. All of our rankings, our draft guide, and the draft guide of all the other creators in the Flock League. You can check that out down below, linked in the pinned comment. $35 covers you from now, when you're watching this, to the end of the fantasy football season. You would be covered for your draft prep to help you win your draft and beat your league mates. You'll be covered for waiver stuff. You'll be covered for in-season rankings, weekly start-sit stuff. You get vouchers to ask us to start, sit, and trade questions throughout the season. It's basically the best deal out there. It is the single best product we've ever launched on the site.
Even when we don't even talk about the in-season rankings, when we don't talk about the free trade and start, sit questions you are getting in this package, you're getting legitimately 4 draft guides for $35 on top of that.
Yeah. And the draft guides, they're all different too. You'd expect, 4 different draft guides, they're all going to be the same. Our draft guide's very spreadsheet oriented, very data oriented. The land guys are very sleeper oriented. These are our targets. Very well done graphically as well. They do a tremendous job there. The domain guys have pick by pick strategy. If you've seen their draft guide, Danny, it's what you should do strategy wise. If you have pick 1 in a sleeper league, if you have pick 3 in an ESPN league, so on and so forth. Mason's going to do the bear and bull cases for all the players, all different products that you're getting for $35 plus the whole season of access.
For $35, you are getting access to all of our draft guides to become an analyst yourself. If you go through all of those guides, especially like you said, all of them are different in their own right, you will be your own analyst by the time you are done it. By the time you are drafting with your home leagues, we've said it all the time. What is it like? It's like training to fight your high school bully against Mike fucking Tyson.
Yeah, you're going to be trained very, very well. And same goes for Underdog. Use Underdog to train for your fantasy football bullies that you're drafting against. Sign up, use the promo code FSE, draft a lot of teams, as many teams as you can afford. If you can only put in $50, well, then do a bunch of $3 drafts, do a bunch of $4 or $5 drafts. You'll get a 50% deposit match for using the promo code FSE, and you could still win big prizes.
Oh, yeah.
Pomeranian contest, the Dalmatian, the Schnauzer contest, they still have 20, 30, 40, 50K prizes up top for a $3 entry. So definitely check that out. And of course, $2 million to first place so you can take down Best Ball Mania 6, a $25 entry contest there. Both linked will be down below in the pinned comment. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, but with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.